Hey sixth graders, I hope you all had a great weekend and were able to enjoy the beautiful sunshine and the great weather. Happy birthday to Reese. Her birthday is tomorrow, so make sure you wish her a happy birthday. You all have a quiz on Wednesday, so today we're going to go through a review and go through all the concepts over lesson 9.1, 9.2, and 9.3. You will need to be able to identify whether a question is a statistical question or not. You will need to be able to answer questions from a dot plot, just like on the homework check from lesson 9.1. You will need to be able to know the difference in how to calculate the mean, median, mode, range, and outlier. So remember that awesome song that I sang to you a couple times. Hopefully you wrote it down, you have it memorized to help you, and have it in your notes. You need to be able to know the effect that the outlier has on the mean as well, whether it increases it or decreases it. So use this video as a great review for the quiz. Check over your homework checks, look over those. You can't take them again, but look over those again. Make sure you understand those questions, and you can use your notes for the quiz. So make sure you have really thorough notes that you understand. You don't have homework to submit. There's not a homework check to complete after this review. Your homework is to study and make sure you're prepared for the quiz, which is on Wednesday, and make sure you have your notes ready. Mr. Chine and I are available on the Schoology conference during this class. And then on Wednesday for your quiz, we'll post the quiz as a Schoology assignment, just like we have all the other assessments. And you will take it, you can either print it and then upload it, or take it on notebook paper, take pictures of that and upload it, and make sure that you upload it as a PDF, please. That makes it much easier for us to scan through and check your work. You are held to the honor code. It is extremely important that you show your work for every question and that your answers are your independent answers. I know you have a lot of resources available to you, much more than you would have if you were taking this quiz or a test in a classroom, but you are still held to the same honor code. If somebody asks you for an answer, do not give that to them. And you should not be asking somebody for an answer or how they did a problem. You are an ESD student and you are held by the honor code that you sign at the beginning of the year. Mr. Chine and I will be available on the Schoology conference. So while you take your quiz, if you have questions that come up, we'll be available then. If you should start the quiz at the beginning of class. On Wednesday, our class is at 8:30. You have 90 minutes to take your quiz, and that should be plenty of time. Even if you have extended time, that's plenty of time. So it is due by 10:30. You need to be finished with your quiz by 10:30. So make sure that you start it at by 10. 90 minutes is by 10 o'clock. So make sure you start it at 8:30 and it needs to be uploaded by 10 o'clock. Okay, let's go ahead and get started reviewing. Okay, so we're going to go ahead and review for the quiz, which is over lessons 9.1 to 9.3, and today's the 27th. Again, you can start your quiz on Wednesday at 8:30, and you need to have it uploaded by 10 o'clock. That's 90 minutes, plenty of time. You need to have it uploaded by 10 o'clock. Even if you have extended time, that's plenty of time. If you start at 8:30, that's 90 minutes. Okay, the first thing is let's go over statistical questions and figuring yes or no if a question is a statistical question. So remember, statistical questions are ones that you would get a variety of answers from. If there's one single answer, then it is not a statistical question. But if you ask this to a handful of people and got a variety of different answers, then yes, it is a statistical question. So let's look at this example here. How many girls are in the 6th grade? At ESD. At ESD. Okay. If we asked Micah this question, he would be able to give us the same, he could count, and he could give us the same answer if I asked Ella this question. So this is not a statistical question because there's one single answer. How many girls are in the 6th grade at ESD? We could count everybody. This one, how many hours of sleep did each 6th grader get last night? If I asked Andrew how many hours of sleep he got last night, his answer might be different than if I asked Maggie how many hours of sleep she got last night. So this is a statistical question because you will get different answers. So yes, that's a statistical question. What size shoes does each person in the class wear? If I asked Ryder what size shoe she wears, her answer might be different than if I asked Miles what size shoe he wears. So yes, this is a statistical question because every person could give a different answer. How many siblings does John Luca have? Statistical question or not? This one is not a statistical question because John Luca has however many siblings John Luca has, and that number's not, going to be the same. It is going to be the same. John Luca has a certain number of siblings. Okay, so hopefully you are a little bit more clear on what a statistical question is or is not. Okay, next we're going to review over a dot plot. This was lesson 9-1, and on the homework check there were dot plots that you answered questions on. So this dot plot is you asked people about video games, how many hours of video games do they play per week. So these questions are one that we're going to answer. How many students were surveyed? Is there an outlier? What's the peak? Are there any gaps? And what's the range? So you can go ahead and pause the video and get your answer for those questions now. Okay, so how many students are surveyed? What you would simply do is count the dots, because each dot is an answer of a student that gave when you said, hey, how many hours of video games do you play a week? So let's count the dots here. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11, 12, 13, 14, 15, 16, 17, 18. So there are 18 students surveyed. What's the outlier? Remember what an outlier is. The outlier is either the extreme high or extreme low data point. So is there any data point that's very high or very low? So if you look here, the 0 is the outlier. So yes, 0. 14, yeah, there's a little separation there, but it's still close to 12. I mean, it's close enough that I wouldn't call it an outlier. But 0 is an outlier because it's an extreme low. And think, what is that outlier going to do to the mean, to the average of this data? Because it's a low outlier, it is going to decrease the mean, because it's going to pull that average down. Just like if these were grades, if you were to get a 0 on something, you will know that effect that it has on your grades. It pulls it down. Okay, is there a peak? What is the peak? Yes, here's the peak, and that number is missing, but you can see it's between 8 and 10, so the peak is at 9 hours. 18 students, I didn't put my label there. And then are there any gaps? Remember, gaps are when there's data and then nothing in between. So yes, between 0 and 6. Between 0 and 6. And between 12 and 14. So there's a gap here and a gap here. Gap, gap. This is your peak. This is your outlier. And then what's the range? Remember what the range is. Mean, the average, mode, most often, range, subtract the smallest from the largest, median, the middle number when you line them up from the greatest to the least, cha-cha-cha. So the range, subtract the smallest from the largest. The smallest is 0. You're subtracting that from 14. So 14 minus 0 equals 14. All right, that's your range. It tells you how spread apart your data is. All right, let's go ahead and move on to the next topic. If you have questions over this, statistical questions or dot plots, look back over that lesson 9-1 homework check. Okay, so make sure that you know what the mean, median, mode, range, and outlier and the effect that the outlier has on the mean. Remember the song that I just sang to you? You can sing it to yourself now to go ahead and kind of give the definitions of what each of these things are, and then we can check. So go ahead and pause and write the definitions of those. Okay, so for mean, you remember it's the average. And how do you get the mean? How do you get the average? Remember, you add all numbers divided by number of numbers. However many numbers there are. So add all the numbers, divide by the number of numbers, however many numbers there are. Okay, for the median, remember that's the middle number when you line them up from the greatest to the least, cha-cha-cha. So median is that middle number when put in order. Remember, if there is a middle number, awesome. You have that middle number, you get that middle answer. If there is not, and there are two middle numbers, remember you add them and you divide by 2. So if two middle numbers add and divide by 2 to get that true middle number. Okay, the mode is the one that occurs the most. Most. The range is the difference between the greatest and the least. The difference between the greatest and the least. So big number minus small number. It tells you how spread out your data is. It tells you how far apart your data is. How far apart data is. Okay, and then your outlier is either, I'm going to write it here so it's not so crowded. Your outlier is either your extreme low or high number. And the effect that it can have on the mean, it can increase or decrease. I'm running out of room, sorry, it's not very organized. The mean. So it can either increase or decrease the mean, and it's your extreme low or high number, extreme high. Okay, so let's look at this data set here, 29, 18, 24, 21, 20, 22, 22. And we're going to go ahead and we will find the mean, median, mode, range, and outlier if there's one of that. So go ahead and pause and find the mean, median, mode, range, and outlier and the effect that the outlier has on the mean for this data set here. Okay, so to find the mean, you need to make sure that you show all of your work. If there's a question like this on the quiz, we need to see all of your work. It's too easy for you to try and use a calculator and get the answer and us not see the work or calculations that you did. So you are not allowed to use a calculator, so you need to show your work. Okay, for the mean, you add up all the numbers. So let's add them up. 29, 18, 24, 21, 20, 22, and 22. Okay, add them up. Let's see here. 9 and 1 is 10. 8 and 2 is another 10. So that's 24, 25, 26. 2, 4, 6, 8, 10, 12, 14, 15. 156. Now I divide that by however many numbers I have. Divide by the number of numbers. So 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8. 8 can go into 15 once. 8 can go into 76 9 times. 8 can go into, add a decimal point and a 0 to keep dividing. 8 can go into 40, pop my decimal up 5 times, and I'm finished. So my mean is 19.5. Hopefully you got that mean as well. If not, check your calculation. Make sure your sum was 156, and you should have divided it by 8 and got 19.5. Or you could write it as 19 and a half, 19 and 4/8, 19 and a half. All right, for the median, you need to put them in order from least to greatest. So let's go ahead and put them, or greatest to least. You just have to put them in order. So let's go ahead and do that. Now I have 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8 numbers in my data set. So I need to make sure that when I put them in order, I have 8 numbers listed here. Maybe I even want to put lines so I can make sure that I have 8 numbers. 5, 6, 7, and 8. So I have 8 numbers here because I have 8 numbers in my data set. All right, so I have 9. My next smallest one is 18. Then I have 2 20s. I could cross them out too if I wanted to make sure that I have them. Okay, and then I have a 21, a 22, 22, and 24. All right, now I cross them off to find that middle number. One off the low, one off the high, one off the low, one off the high, one off the low, one off the high, and I have 2 numbers in the middle. Remember up here when you have 2 numbers in the middle, how you find that median is you average them. You add them and divide by 2, just like we did with the bases of the trapezoid. So I would say 20 plus 21 is 41. And then 41 divided by 2 is 20.5. Now, you might have been able, 20.5 is your median, to see that, hey, what number is in between 20 and 21? 20 and a half. You might not have needed to do this calculation here. For this one, you could have seen, oh, right in between there is 20 and a half. That's not necessarily a number in my data set, but it's that middle number. The median's that middle number. Now the mode, remember the mode is the one that occurs the most. You could have no mode. If all these numbers occur only one time, there's no mode. You can have one mode. There's one number that occurs the most. You can have two modes, two numbers that occur the most, three modes. So let's go ahead and look. When I have them in order from least to greatest, it's easier to see. Hey, there's only 1 9, 1 18. Oh, there's two 20s here. Okay, so I have two 20s here and I have two 22s here. So my mode must be 20 and 22. That's my mode, 20 and 22. Now the range, remember when you subtract the greatest, you subtract the smallest from the largest. Okay, so subtract the smallest number from the largest. It tells you how spread apart your data is. So for the range, I'm going to do 24 minus 9 and get 15. So my range is 15. Now the outlier, remember the outlier is either the extreme high or extreme low. So looking at all these numbers, 9 to 18 is a pretty big jump. And then to 20, not so big, 21, 22, 24. So 9 would be my outlier. Not every data set has an outlier. Some data sets don't have one. Some could have an extreme low and an extreme high. Some could just have an extreme high or an extreme low. So this example, the outlier is a 9. And what effect would that outlier have on the mean? That outlier decreases the mean. If it's a very high outlier, then it would increase the mean. Okay, so hopefully you feel confident on how to calculate the mean, median, mode, range, and the outlier from a data set. If you have any questions, come jump on the Schoology conference. We're going to keep reviewing. We're not over yet, but if you just have any questions as we go through this, Mr. Chan and I are available to you. Okay, so now we have a set of data here that's not numerical. It's not numbers. These are favorite TV shows. We asked some 6th graders, hey, what's your favorite TV show? And these were their answers. All-American, Gossip Girl, Loud House, Fuller House, Loud House, All-American, Gossip Girl, All-American, and All-American. So let's go ahead and see, can we find the mean? Can we find the median? Can we find the mode? Can we find the range? And can we find an outlier of this data? Go ahead and pause the video and answer whichever question or questions you can answer with this data set. Okay, so you cannot find the mean. You cannot add All-American and Gossip Girl and Loud House. You can't add all of these up. So there's no way to find the mean because it's not numerical data. Same thing, you cannot find the median. You can't line them up from greatest to least or least to greatest and cross out until you get a middle number. There's no way to find the median. The mode is the one that occurs the most. You can find that. And in fact, the mode is the only one that you can find when the data is not numerical. The mode is the one. So which one occurs the most? All-American is right here. Let's see, 1, 2, 3, 4. So I have 4 All-American. Gossip Girl, I have 1, 2 Gossip Girls. Loud House, I have 2 Loud House. Oh, and just 1 Fuller House right here. Everything else is accounted for, yes. So my mode is All-American. Okay, now range, can I find a greatest or a least to find the difference of? No, no range and outlier. There's not an extreme high or an extreme low either. So the mode is the only one when it's not numerical that you can find. Okay, we have 2 more questions, and these are questions that require a little bit more thinking, but once I kind of walk you through how to do it, you totally can do it. So for this type of question, you are going to come up with the data set. I give you the median, I give you the mode, I give you the range, and tell you how many numbers there are, and you have to create that data set. Okay, so create a data set with 7 numbers. So automatically in my head, I'm thinking, okay, 7 numbers, I'm thinking of 7 blanks. I'm going to go ahead and draw those blanks here. 1, 2, 3, 4, 4, 5, 6, 7. Okay, so I have 7 numbers in this data set, 7 blanks. Now I know that my median is 8. What is the median? The median is that middle number. So I know this middle space, right? 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8. Okay, so this middle number right here, that's the median. There are 3 on this side and 3 on this side. That median is 8. Because it's an odd number of numbers, there's in fact actually a middle spot for that number. Okay, my median is 8. I did that. Now I know my mode is 15. Well, I know for the median, the numbers have to be in order from least to greatest. So 15, for the mode to be 15, it has to be over here. I could put 15 in this spot, and this spot, and this spot. I could just put it here, or I could put it here, but for sure it needs to be there at least twice. So I'm going to go ahead and just fill it in all 3 spots, because why not? That fills in some of my spots. Now I know that now I just need to make sure I don't put the same number here. If I put like 5, 5, 5, or 4, 4, 4, or 3, 3, 3, then I would have 2 modes, and that would not fit this criteria. Okay, now my next point is that the range is 10. How you get the range is you subtract the smallest number from the largest. So the difference between this number and 15 is 10. So that means that this number must be 5. Now, because I have 3 15s, that's my mode, I just can put any number between 5 and 8 here. I could put 1 5 and 1 8 because my mode would still be 15. I could put 6 and 7. I could put a 5 and a 6. I could put a 7 and an 8. Whatever it may be, I'm going to go ahead and put 6, 7. Why not? Now, I want to go ahead and check and make sure that this data set follows my criteria. My median is 8. Cross off least greatest, least greatest, least greatest. My median is 8. It works. My mode is 15. Yep, 15 occurs the most right here. And my range is 10. From 15 to 5 is 10. And I could fill in the other spots as needed. Now, you might get a different answer. If we were to work this one independently, you could get different answers here. As long as your range is 10, from 15 to 5, we know that the mode is 15, and your median is 8. As long as it follows this criteria, your data set will most likely be different than somebody else's. So let's go ahead and try this one on your own. This one on your own, you're coming up with a data set. You know that it's 6 numbers. The median is 10, the mode is 4, and the range is 20. So go ahead and pause and see if you can come up with that data set. Okay, so your first step is to make 6 blanks. You know that there are 6 numbers. The median is 10. Okay, so my middle number is 10, but wait, if I have 6 spots, I don't have a middle number. That means that in between these 2 spots needs to be 10. All right, well, I'm going to go ahead and put this one as 9 and 11 because I know 10 is right in between 9 and 11. So that would work. You might have something different. You might have 8 and 12. You possibly could have 10 and 10. As long as your mode 4 occurs, actually no, you couldn't, because if 4 occurred twice here, you couldn't have 10 and 10. That wouldn't work, because then 10 would also be a mode. All right, so you would need 9 and 11 or 8 and 12, some numbers that would then give you 10 as the median when put in order. All right, check there. The mode is 4, so 4 needs to occur the most. Well, when I have them in order for my median, my only 2 spots that I have left are these 2 right here. So those have to be 4s. Okay, and my range is 20, so from this number to this number, the difference there needs to be 20. So this must be 24, because 4 plus 20 is 24. So then if I do 24 minus 4, it gives me the range of 20. Okay, now I can just fill in any number here basically between 11 and 24. Not 11, not 24, because remember my mode is just 4. So any number between 11 and 24, I'll pick 15. You could pick whatever you needed to fill in there. As long as your data set follows this criteria. This one was a little bit more difficult than the one above because the one above actually had a middle spot for the median. This one you had to do a little bit more thinking because that middle spot wasn't there. So you had to think of what numbers would give you a median of 10. There will be a question like this on the quiz. but you can do it. Walk through each step, put in your blanks, and fill in what you know and what needs to work. All right, Mr. Chine and I are available if you have any questions. Work through this, go through homework checks if you have any questions on those, want to rework those. Make sure you have your notes and you're prepared to start at 8:30 so you have the whole 90 minutes to make sure that you submit your quiz by 10 o'clock. Mr. Chine and I will be available on the Schoology conference while you're taking your quiz as well. I know you know how to do all these problems. Make sure that it's your work and make sure that you are showing all your work. All right, thanks guys.